Welcome to the UIF Community Podcast. Before we get started, please keep in mind that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed are those of the individual presenters and do not necessarily reflect UIF Corporation or its affiliates.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Omar Subhani with UIF. Welcome to the UIF Community Podcast. This is a podcast about learning, growing, and community. We discuss different pieces of economic and finance news each episode and how it may affect you personally, as well as discussing relevant topics in the Islamic finance industry. Lastly, we'll share some pertinent community news with you so you can be in the know. UIF is always looking to benefit our community in any way we can. This podcast is one of the ways we hope to bring benefit, inshallah. So who's UIF, you may be wondering? UIF is the leader in Islamic finance in the US. We currently offer Islamic home, commercial, vehicle financing, as well as halal savings accounts. Please keep UIF in mind for your Islamic financing needs. You can find out more information about UIF at myuif.com. Without further ado, let's get into today's discussion. I have my awesome co-hosts with me, Ijaz Hussain and Faraz Zaitar. All right, guys. We have a jam-packed episode about athleisure wear. This episode kind of got inspired by a tweet that I read back in May, about Lululemon. So we're going to get into that discussion in a little bit. But before that, we like to always start the show with Ijaz's economic news and market update. So, Guz, you have a really interesting take this episode about the recent ruling that has to do with the National Association of Realtors. So, can you tell our listeners why that's important, how that might affect them?
Yeah. No, hey, salam everyone. It's just a pleasure. This is our third episode we're recording now. And if you've heard the first two, we're kind of building on some of the common themes that we have talked about earlier. I want to first quickly, Umar, highlight some of the economic update that what we're seeing from our side. We have a view into 30 different markets. We serve 30 states for home financing and so forth. So one of the things we are privileged to is seeing the data coming in terms of how the real estate markets are doing. So I want to just share a little bit with the audience about what we're seeing currently. Just as a recap, we all know what happened kind of after the COVID by now, that government printed excessive amounts of money, over $6 trillion, and that money has sort of crept into the everywhere, basically, in the form of high prices and inflation. And inflation hit a 40-year high, I think right around the end of 2022. And since then, the government has been trying to get it down. And they've done a pretty admirable job, in my humble opinion, down from about 10% to around 3.4% today. But not good enough by their standards. They want to go more towards the 2% mark. And not only have asset prices in almost everything, whether it's equities or houses or artwork or cars, they've all gone up. But the mortgage rates have gone up. That have really impacted the housing markets. That is of most relevance and important to us. So one of the things that the entire world watches is what is the Fed's next move, if you will. And the Fed basically is going to make no move come in the near term, because every month you have the employment report that is released first Friday. And this report that was released last Friday shows the economy is still running very hot. Expectations were about 180,000 new jobs created, came in at about 272,000. So that just shows that the market is still very resilient, very hot. Unemployment rate finally has moved up to 4%, which is considered by most to be an ideal employment rate, because this way there's enough liquidity where people who want to find jobs are finding jobs, but it's still low enough that the economy is humming along just fine. So bottom line, the Fed is meeting next week, and it's pretty much baked in the cake right now that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to lower the rates. The market really wanted to see Fed starting to cut some rates, because they increased the rates 5.5% or 550 basis points over the last couple of years. they wanted to see a little bit of a pullback that'll make the housing markets more affordable, because the number one concern right now in the housing markets is affordability. Younger people just are priced out of the market. The home prices are high, mortgage rates are really high. It makes affordability a huge challenge. People who have low mortgage rates when they refinanced back in 2022, 2023, maybe even earlier than that, they're sitting at rates between 3.5% to 4.5%. So they're not going anywhere. So you have a huge inventory issue right now that continues to plague the market. Multiple markets we see, every home is getting multiple offers. And people are getting priced out. I mean, I know this for a fact, talking to many of our own reps, our own sales reps and area managers in different markets. Our customers are putting in offers, and they're just getting outbid because of somebody with a cash offer or no appraisal waiver. Just different things. People are buying homes as is, without consideration to any repairs and so forth. So it's a very it's a big seller market, and buyers are at a great disadvantage. And we were hoping by summer this year things would have changed. There'll be more inventory, and we are seeing signs of that. There is definitely more inventory coming into the market, but not good enough yet. Builder homes are selling very fast. Builders have special incentives, and many times. So the market is a little challenged right now, but we still feel that looking out 6 months to a year, the mortgage rates might go down a little bit. We might see more of an inventory, and eventually people have to buy and people have to sell. So that is going to happen sooner or later. So we're positive about that. One of the questions people always ask me when they hear what I do is this a good time to buy? And my question always is, buy what exactly? I mean, if it's a primary home you're looking to buy, I'm like, that's always the time to buy, because if you buy a primary home, you're looking to maybe sell 5 to 10 years out, chances are very high that the home price is going to be higher, over time than what it is today, even if the markets are higher today. So yes, so if you're looking to buy a home to live in with your family, and if you find an ideal home, what difference does it make if you pay 10 or 20,000 more or less? Your family is going to enjoy the right home, the right school district. So my thinking always is, for the primary home, you can't really time the market. You buy when you have to, and if it's a good deal, you really love the home, it satisfies and checks off all your boxes, you go for it. Now, if you're looking to buy an investment property, my view is a little bit different. I mean, maybe there's a better time to buy an investment property, especially if you're going to be financing the investment property, because the rates are pretty high. So bottom line, I think we're hopeful things are going to get better, but we're also a little disappointed that things have not already gotten a little better. But we do feel that good things are going to be coming. So that's sort of the economic update, Omar, from that perspective. I wanted to now dive into that. The realtors lawsuit that I think is going to be a huge, a very impactful change coming up in the industry. So if you have any questions, Omar, about economic update, if not, I'm going to
Yeah,
dive into that.
I just wanted to mention that we're in the beginning of June. It's June 10th as of today's recording, just so our listeners are aware, based on what Ijaz is saying. And I would, definitely agree. It's been a bit disappointing in terms of how home prices, rates, that whole thing has played out so far this year. But I think regardless, the industry is chugging along and just going about business as usual. And, the 7% rates are just kind of, they're here to stay for now, right? It does. I mean, I think that's just kind of how it is. So,
Yeah, at one of the seminars I did, I last week, I believe, one of the customers attendees came and asked me a question. He said, "Listen, do you believe in the inflation number that the government puts out at 3.4%? Do you believe that number?" And I was kind of caught off guard by that. I mean, I know we live in a very in a society these days that we all have our tents that we belong to and so forth. But the question was like almost like, hey, who do you believe, right? So I went back and I did some more checking and research on that inflation number, and I feel comfortable. At the end of the day, no matter who the administration is, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, one thing we have to have faith is in our institutions in this country, and the inflation numbers come from Bureau of Labor Statistics. and they report this price data on a monthly basis. And the way they do that, the process has not changed. I don't care who the administration is, but they collect data from 75 urban areas across the country. So it's a large swath of the country, right? Big markets. And they tap into 23,000 retail establishments for this data. And they also collect rent data from 50,000 landlords. So it's a very big sampling. And they use the same sampling. So it doesn't really matter which administration in the office. So to me, whatever it is, we're using the same rules, same process, no matter who's in the office. So politicians, when they try to play this number by saying, oh, it's being underreported, it's being overreported, they say that for their own constituents, but I feel very comfortable that at least the playing field is the same for everyone, and the data points the same for everyone. So inflation is what it is. I think the government is doing a really good job bringing it down, and I'm hoping they can bring it down even more. But anyway, so that was something like a side tidbit I wanted to talk about the inflation. Talking about this National Association of Realtors lawsuit, I think this is going to be redefine the real estate industry and how we buy and sell homes going into the future. And for just as a recap for people who are not familiar with it, a bunch of home sellers in the state of Missouri file a class action lawsuit against the NAR, the National Association of Realtors. It's a very big body that represents realtors. And basically they sued them saying that the current compensation model is unfair because sellers are paying for commissions for both the sellers and the buyers. And all along, we all have basically followed this general rule that, hey, sellers pay 5.5 or 6% commission when the home sells. Half is paid out to the seller's broker and the seller realtor, and half goes to the buyer broker and the buyer realtor. This was almost like, as clear as day or dark as night, if you will, and everybody operated in the same assumption. But what this lawsuit pointed out is that there is no such rules like that. And you don't have to pay to play in the MLS game. And there were multiple things that came out. But the biggest thing that came out is the jury found the NAR, National Association of Realtors, guilty for these practices that are unfair, and it awarded the plaintiffs $1.8 billion settlement. Now, it's not all finalized yet because the DOJ, the Department of Justice, has come in and they filed a lawsuit saying, hey, listen, we don't think it's fair. 1.8 is not good enough. We might actually, that was a jury settlement. I'm sorry. The realtors later on went back and they settled it for, I think, 418 million or something like that. And don't quote me on the number exactly, but so the DOJ stepped in and said, wait a second, that number is too low. We're going to have to look into this some more. So it's not settled yet. There's still back and forth going on that. But what is changing is going forward, the sellers will not be required to pay the buyer's commission. So sellers will make an agreement with their realtor on what they're willing to pay, whether they want to pay 2% or 2.5% or 1%. There is no fixed fee. So you can pay whatever you want to pay based on the agreement you have with the selling realtor. But it has to be very clearly defined now who's going to be paying the buyer's share, the buyer's commission portion. So are the buyers going to pay that? Or are the sellers going to pay that? And what is that amount going to be? That has to be clearly disclosed in the form of a buyer's agreement. Some states already had this buyer agreement, but now it's going to be official. Every time a buyer is represented by a realtor, they have to sign an agreement saying who's going to pay for the commission. It might be the sellers who pay it because they want to sell their house, but this has to be very clearly identified, and it cannot be an assumption that the seller will automatically pay for this. So how will this impact realtors? I mean, I've been really watching, studying, reading. I've probably put in 20, 30 hours on this, listening to different podcasts and attorney write-ups on this and so forth. So here's my take on this, right? So first and foremost, successful realtors who work full-time, have deep networks, connections, they'll be fine. They'll income might be impacted, but they'll be fine overall. They might even thrive. Part-time agents, realtors who basically do a few deals a year, I think they're gone for the most part. I think it'll be very hard for them to live in this lower commission world that we find ourselves in. New business models will come up. For example, there's a company called homes.com. They basically advertise, why work with the buyer's realtor? Basically, just contact the listing realtor, the selling realtor. That realtor is going to represent both sides, and you save on commissions and so forth. They know the home better, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to see these new business models come up that's going to challenge the status quo. Also, some discounted listing services where they'll not provide much service. They'll probably provide like a flat fee for you to list the home on MLS, but then the buyers will have to find the home. Sellers will just show the home. So services will be severely curtailed, but the fee also you pay as a seller will be greatly reduced. More digital showings, more open houses. So buyers will take more of will be responsible for searching, finding their homes, making appointments, and so forth. So again, bottom line, the industry is going to radically change. The landscape is going to radically change, and it's going to start slow, but I think the impact is going to be very long lasting, and future winners and losers are going to come into focus in the next 3 to 5 years. Which realty companies are doing a better job at this? Who can scale technology? Who can scale these new business practices to be successful? But it's a good thing for the buyers because and sellers, because overall you're going to save a little bit more on commission. So that's sort of a rundown, Umar, on this now ruling. I think hopefully people find it beneficial.
I think so. I think this is again one of those major industry-wide decisions that in the long run is going to have, I think, some serious impact. It does. I mean, where do you? One of the things that I was thinking is that there's going to be some third-party players here who are we don't know who they are yet. Um, Maybe some Silicon Valley type companies like Zillow or something, but I feel like someone's going to step into this vacuum here that's been created by this settlement and try to exploit it, right? Like, so to me, it just, I mean, I'm not that smart to do that, but I'm figuring someone who's got the means and the ability and the motivation, and can get creative here, can get into that space and start, wheeling and dealing when it comes to helping people buy houses in a way that's smoother, kind of like Tesla into the car industry, right? So, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I listened to all the conference calls of all the top publicly traded real estate companies like Remax, like Compass Realty, Redfin, the company called House that owns Global Banker and Century 21, etc. They're scared, and they all make a claim that they know what's going on, and they know they're capable of handling and working this environment and even thriving in this. But I truly feel uh, the old legacy companies will have the hardest time dealing with this. But companies like you mentioned, Zillow is one, very asset light model. They don't own it. They just basically but their site is probably one of the most visited site out there for real estate. So eyeballs will make a difference, and if they'll capitalize. Redfin, I think, will be well positioned for that because they have a model that they don't pay commissions, but they pay salaries to their realtors, and they have the technology and the reach to work well. Compass, I think, they talk big about the technology. So some of these companies, and also Homes.com. I think Homes is not public; it's owned by another company. But bottom line, yes, Omar, I think in the next few years we're going to start hearing of some companies that are really working this, adapting to this model, I should say, where the listing is, rather than paying a listing broker a 2%, 1%, it'll be more like a flat fee. Also, you might see some menu of services. Hey, you want us to do the full service, soup to nuts? You'll be paying us maybe, let's say, 2%. But if you want us to just list it, we'll be 0.5%. But at 1%, we'll be able to do, we'll list it. We'll help you with the marketing, but you have to show the property. I mean, I think that's where it might go as well, where you might have a menu of services that people can choose from, and then go. And similarly with buyers, I don't think buyers are ready to pay commissions like that because these commissions can add up to a lot. A lot of the buyers don't have enough for the down payment as well. So them also saying now we're going to pay commissions too, I think that's tough. But as a seller is motivated to sell the property. I think they'll have to figure out, well, what do we pay the buyer's realtor, and that's where they'll have to figure out what is that magic number we don't know yet. But yeah, it will, winners and losers, as I said, we're gonna keep an eye on it, and we'll share. If you keep listening to our podcast, we will share along the way who we think are winning or losing this game.
Yeah, definitely. I think this, obviously it's part of our industry that we work in at UIF with our home financing. So definitely we'll be paying heavy attention to this ruling and the settlement and how it plays out in the end. Um, so I'm going to transition now to what I had mentioned earlier. You know, uh, Lululemon. So just a little bit about how this kind of got started. I was just browsing on Twitter, like I think what to do, just reading different tweets and things. So I got one of those recommended tweets there that I was reading from this person named Tara Viswanathan. I don't know if I got her name right, but she's the founder and CEO of Rupa Health, and
It's
she was mentioning.
Omar, can I interject for you? The sorry to jump in here, but the her name is Tara Vishwanathan. Vishwanathan is an Indian name that I have some expertise in pronouncing because I'm from India as well, and South Indian name. So Tara Vishwanathan is her name. And one just as a before you go in, I just wanted to say this is exactly what you talked about in the beginning, right? Like one of the things we hope to do is not just obviously adding value. Is we're going to bring some interesting case studies about either books that we think are really beneficial for the community or articles that this one you came across that really is a good learning opportunity for our community members. And that's why we thought Lululemon would be a great case study. This tweet kind of triggered the idea, but collectively I think you, me, and Farah have done a lot of research on this company now that we can call ourselves almost like pseudo experts on this company now, and we're going to talk about it. And I at the end I'm going to cover that with some of the financials and why how the stock is performing and stuff, just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, that's the whole point, is to offer great value for this podcast. So go ahead, Omar. Sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to set that.
That is totally fine, and I'm glad you could get her name right, and educated me on that. So Vishwanathan, right, is the name, right? So Tara is she's the CEO of Rupa Health, right? So she was mentioning basically her experience working at Lululemon part time. And this is how we got into this discussion, right, amongst the three of us, and why we wanted to share this with all of you who are listening, because we thought this was really interesting. But before I get into her tweet, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on Lululemon, because there might be some of our listeners who don't know who Lululemon is or what they do, or maybe they kind of heard of Lululemon. But they're a clothing company. They focus on athleisure wear mostly, which is like joggers, stretch pants, yoga pants, right? That's kind of their thing. So you could kind of think of them as like almost like a Nike or Under Armour type company, but clothing company. They do the whole thing now: shoes, socks, everything, right? So, and very interesting how they developed, how they grew. They started back in 1998 with their founder Chip Wilson in Canada. He had started a company prior to Lululemon, and then got into yoga. He started noticing that there were, women who were, basically who were, trying to find more about, different types of pants and things like that that were basically able to help them during the yoga classes and that they could wear outside of the classes. So he kind of got interested into that, and started, basically going from there to develop the company that would become Lululemon. And you know he I think from that point on he was doing a lot of research and studying into making this business, originally I think designed mostly for women's athletic wear, right? And from that point on, he developed a name for the company, Lululemon, which kind of came from his experience with Japanese customers who were kind of intrigued with the company's names that started with the letter L. It's kind of weird to me, but I guess that's how he got into that and developed the name for the company. And originally Lululemon itself, besides being a clothing store, it started, its first store in 2000 as a design studio and a yoga studio at night. So one of the key things about Lululemon was that they were heavily involved in the communities that their stores were opened in, and they did a lot of outreach, community building. So not like your typical retail store, which I think is what kind of separates Lululemon from other brands, is that they have the connection with their local community. So each retail store has that connection. I think that makes a difference in terms of spreading awareness about their products and services, and then also just being more authentic in the community. So that's a little bit about Lululemon, just very cursory. But I know you did some research about the company as well. So I wanted to ask you, like, kind of what your take was on their development in the beginning and kind of how they became into the powerhouse that they are today.
Yeah, so Omar, I was actually very intrigued by the founder, and that's how I'm an entrepreneur by, from day one, and I like going into the weeds when it comes to the founder and what makes the founder tick. And this founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson, has a very interesting background. He actually had built a couple of companies before even Lululemon. So he had first gone out to he's originally from Canada. He had gone out to San Diego, and back then he saw the craze. I think it was in the 80s. He saw the craze about how the skateboard lifestyle, the people, were dressing differently in Southern California. So he took that ideas back to San Diego, and he launched his first company. And then that was kind of coming along, and then he launched this brand called Homeless, which was a skateboard brand, if you will. And both brands were doing okay, but liquidity was always a concern that he just couldn't scale it up next level. Eventually ended up selling it. I think he made about 800,000 in profits, and it was nothing big deal for all the work and time he put into it. But the businesses were considered okay, not success by any sense of the word. And that ties into a little bit of the name that, people asked him, hey, how did you come up with the name Lululemon? It's kind of a weird name. And he kind of made a joke out of it. Well, it's kind of, I thought it'd be funny for Japanese people to pronounce it because Japanese people have an issue with the letter L. And when you have three L's in it, so that sort of, was kind of funny. But at the same time, I think not everybody looked at it as being funny. But then he made a comment. He said the Homeless brand, even though they shut down the skateboarding business, the Homeless brand, but he kept on receiving calls from Japanese customers saying, hey, we want to buy it. And eventually somebody called and said, we want to offer to buy that brand name from you, Homeless. And he felt that's when he realized that having a brand name that is unique, something that resonates in Japan, can really help with the sales in Japan as well. So that's how the name Lululemon came. And then you covered the point about, he started he went to a yoga class at a studio in Vancouver, and that's how he really. That's when he noticed that the clothing women are wearing, they don't seem comfortable or complimentary to a lot of them. So that's how he said maybe if there's a better fabric and we can create better pants, it might take off. And he was absolutely right. But the Chip Wilson in general is a very controversial figure along the way. Like you mentioned about women, it wasn't women. He specifically said many times in his talks I've heard on different platforms. He said, "I created the product for a 30-year-old, 30, not 31, not 32, a 30-year-old professional woman who wants comfort, who has the money, who wants to have that lifestyle brand, if you will." And he started with that very specific target market, if you will, and he used a 30 the age 30 as a number, if you will. But along the way, he's made a lot of controversial comments about child labor laws, where he talked about how in some of these developing countries, if there are young kids 15, 16, working, that's maybe the best they can do. So I don't have a problem with that. And that kind of got him into trouble. And then he made comments more recently about how not all women are suitable for their clothing. And obviously he was alluding to the fact that, there are some women who are plus sizes, and Lululemon clothing will not be a good fit for these women. So those comments were not taken lightheartedly, if you will. And eventually he was sort of forced to resign his position as CEO. And then he still is the largest shareholder. He still, and he started another company now with his wife and his son, which he's trying to compete with. And now all of a sudden, Lululemon to him is not following the ways, and he had a lot of negative things to say about the company and its current management, even though he's the largest shareholder still in the company. But one thing I liked about him is that he kept on insisting in many of the podcasts I heard and some of the videos I've seen about him, that he keeps on saying, we're not in the apparel business as much as we're in the people development business. And this is important because what he's trying to say is we try to hire the best people and we develop them to be next level talent. So book readings are very important to him. So he talked about Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Good to Great as another book. And these are all books I've read myself, and I've recommended to all our team members as well that you guys should read it because it really makes you a better entrepreneur. So he's done that. He's asked people to take some courses. So he's big on self development. I like that about him, that he really pushes team members to invest in themselves and get better. So there's a lot out there. I don't want to take up too much time because Farah is going to cover some very, very good information about from the inside of how it is for people who work in the inside as well as the tweets. So, but that's kind of just adding some color to what the comments you made, Omar.
Thanks, Ijaz. I'm gonna make sure that we have the tweet from Tara that it's part of our podcast episode, so our listeners can check out her tweet because it's a long thread that she wrote. I think like 15 or 20 tweets altogether. But a lot of what she was saying when I was reading it, and me and Fada were discussing it last week, because both Fada and I are big fans of Lululemon and their clothing, was that Fada was saying that she has a friend of hers that basically could testify to everything that Tara was saying was basically the same, and in terms of buy-in by the workers and how they're treated and how the company looks out for them. So Farah, can you kind of give us perspective on that in terms of your friends, her experience there at Lululemon and what she shared with you and that whole thing. Kind of share that with the audience.
Of course, Omar. So with Lululemon, they're just like as Ajaz was saying about the self-development and like how that's what he wants from his employees. It actually goes down to even each store. Each store, it's where the manager themselves are the CEOs of the store. Basically, they're able to make decisions without going to higher corp, or anything of that. What that ends up happening, Omar, is it gives employees more power. It empowers them. It makes them think like entrepreneurs. So what ended up happening is they were able to give my friend, they gave her $125 each month. Just this particular store, each store has their own rules again, to go ahead and get training. So she would go sign up for a gym. They would give her a great discount on apparel. So she would be also representing the gym while they're paying for it. Which, of course, one, free advertisement. Two, it also helped the employees themselves get into shape. And as for the employees, they're actually a little known fact is they're called educators. They're not actually called sales staff or none of that because their job is honestly to educate you guys. It's to educate the client about the fabric, about what to wear, what outfit with whatever it is, because the fabric does matter. And this all traces back to the owner of Lululemon, and what he wanted his employees to go ahead from self-development to all that good stuff. Um,
Yeah, so one of the things that Tara also talked about, right, Farah, was, kind of how each store, like, uh, they were able to set their own budget, at least the manager of the store, and they had a budget, sales target, and basically all the workers were in on, working together to hit their sales goals, the target sales that they had. So is that something that your friend also talked to you about in terms of her experience there?
yes, so they have a sales goal that they have to hit. And the unique thing about them is if they do actually hit that sales goal, they get a bonus commission on top of it. So this actually empowered the employees to be like, hey, if we actually help our store hit our goal, we're actually going to also benefit from it as well. So this actually drove them in order to go ahead and one hit their sales goal and exceed them because there was also a benefit for them at the end of it.
One of the stories I heard that I found kind of interesting is the feedback, and they talked about how the employees are basically encouraged to eavesdrop at customers. So the folding tables where they usually do folding, etc., it's right by the changing rooms. So when people are changing clothes and they're trying new things on, when they say the feedback, oh, the shirt is too tight or the pants are blah 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 blah, they are encouraged to take notes and then pass those notes on to management, so they get real time feedback from customers who are trying their clothes. I thought it was a very interesting idea because I don't think any other company does that. Usually, folding tables are inside in the back room, someplace where they organize clothes. But here, they do it right by the changing room, so they get feedback immediately. That goes to show how much they value feedback from their customers. So just a little bit of a tidbit out there, Omar.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that. Yeah, Father, do you have something else to add there?
yeah. There's actually also another thing that they do, which I found fascinating, is if a client or a customer is staring at an item for 10 seconds, within the first 13 seconds, an educator is supposed to be out there discussing the item with the client, the customer. So this actually even drives their sales force even further because, hey, if you're staring at it for 10 seconds, that means you are interested in the item. And if you get more background on the item, then you're more likely to go ahead and purchase the item.
I gotta start being a little bit more mindful now when I'm at the retail stores with all this all this information you guys are giving me. And I think our listeners might be too. The next time they walk into Lululemon, they'll be like, "All right, that was 8 seconds, 9 seconds. All right, I'm putting this down. Just want to be on the safe side. I end up buying something I don't want to." But no, I mean this kind of shows you like the level of detail and attention that they have, and what sets them apart from other places. But the other thing. In terms of workers we're talking about, I think is important. Not only does Lululemon seem to invest quite a bit into workers, not just their like Fado was talking about sales goals and making more money, but also their health. They give out gym memberships to their workers. That's something what Tara was mentioning in her tweet was about how her boss at the time when she was working there at Lululemon gave them, a monthly stipend for gym memberships. And, so the whole idea was that they got fit as employees working out at the local gym. They wore their Lululemon gear when they went to gym. So they were like brand ambassadors. And then they were able to make connections, to the community there locally at the gyms they went to kind of show off the apparel that they're wearing. And, it's kind of just makes so much sense that you have a product that is that they believed in, that was excellent quality, could be worn around in different places, not just in the gym, but you could kind of just move right along into whatever other errands you're running that day, and you're showing off that that clothing that is high quality. It's casual, but you're making that connection now with the local community, right? So these are the kind of things, these little nuance ideas that really set Lululemon apart from other companies that were in the same space, and why they've like quickly jumped to the forefront of the whole athleisure uh, brand. One of the other things I wanted to mention real quick that I thought was interesting, Ijaz, you mentioned this when you were talking about Chip Wilson, but Lululemon has me, their whole idea about, I think, why they've been successful too is, the idea of that making clothing that just kind of went from, workout, yoga, gym, whatever it is, and then you could just wear that out, to running errands, etc. But specifically, they targeted, kind of luxury inclined, I guess, women, right? Who, like you said, in their 30s, and that clothing could be worn in their yoga class, and then it could be worn if they're running errands, picking up groceries or picking up their kids or whatever the case may be. So this is really that was a target audience originally, and it's kind of obviously expanded from there. But it's almost kind of counterintuitive that you're going to make a luxury brand that caters to workouts, but then can seamlessly go from that to outside of the yoga studio or the gym to other areas of life. So that's, I think, really where they set themselves apart, is that the clothing is so flexible, and in the sense that it can be worn on different occasions and seamless. You can wear it like pretty much anywhere. I mean, I have like certain joggers and other things that I could wear for anything. I could wear them. If I want to work out, if I'm going to go golf, if I'm going to play with my kids, run errands, etc. And it kind of just fits in everywhere, right? And that's kind of like I think where a lot of the whole idea now with a lot of clothing is going. But I see ads now, for a suit brand. I don't know, some third party suit brand, but they were saying, oh, this is the Lululemon of suits, right? Which I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds very comfortable, right? That it's going to be not just a suit, but something I can wear and it's comfortable. It's not just like your traditional suit that, yeah, it's just going to be kind of thick and unbreathable and maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but okay, it's like stretchy and, I'm going to be able, like, that whole wicking technology that they have and all that type of stuff. So that's like kind of, I think so much clothing has gone to, and Lululemon's kind of been at the forefront of that. Right. But, um, some of the other things I wanted to mention here, when it came to what she mentioned in her tweet, was, they give discounts to employees, and free hemming for their customers. That was one of the other things. But I think one of the big things here was how they, for someone who's in sales myself, but we talked about this photo, was that what they didn't call their employees like workers, right? They're basically, right? Or sales. They're not salespeople. They're educators. And I think it does. We always say at UIF, right? Like when we do presentations in the community, we're not out there trying to sell anything to people. We're just trying to educate them, right? Now, if you want to use our product and services, great. That's what we're here for. We'd love to. But maybe it's not right for you. Maybe you don't feel that this is like the best thing for you and your family, et cetera, or whatever. So Lululemon, surprisingly, I thought there was a lot of commonality there in terms of like what we do at UIF on the home financing side, and how we look at ourselves. But Farah, that was kind of one of the things, right, that we discussed in our kind of pre-production meeting, was this whole education thing. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what do workers do there? What's the thinking behind that?
So the whole point of it is, yes, you want to sell a product, but at the same time, they want to be able to educate you on the product, because they feel like if they are able to educate you on the product, that even if you don't purchase right now, in the future, you will be thinking about it. And the first thing that will pop up is Lululemon. Be like, oh, Lululemon has this product. While other companies would not even have that specific product. Because I do work out a lot myself. And honestly, from my yoga to the lifting to the running, they're all different fabrics and all different products that I found out that I like to utilize. And one of those reasons is because I was educated on it. So whenever somebody, like, I went to Lululemon, I was like, hey, what about this product? They're like, it's best if you use this for running, or it's best if you use this for lifting. So the product itself and the material does vary, and I carry that knowledge till this day about it. Another thing I honestly love about Lululemon, I am a big advocate of them, is their customer service is amazing. So I always leave, whether I'm talking to the corporate or outside, I always leave with a good impression. Which brings us back also to us, where we always want to, our clients, whether they go with us or not, we always want to leave a great impression, because we don't know in the future what it holds. So they will always come back to us. So it's very relatable.
A company is doing a really good job when the outsiders refer to their customers and their followers as a cult following, and that's maybe the highest compliment you can give. And there's so many references when I did my research about how they call it, oh, it's the cult of Lululemon. So people who like them are such huge raving fans, and that's the ultimate prize for any company. I mean, we talk about this all the time. The best businesses out there, who are super successful, that's the highest moniker you can get to, is when somebody can say, hey, you've kind of created raving fans, and it's a cult. So, and I would love if somebody says, hey, it's a UIF cult, because that will tell me that we and our people have done such a great job uh, setting the right expectations and delivering on those expectations, that people say, hey, go to UIF, and we can sort of make that claim, because when people look at our own Google reviews, that are thousands of reviews from our current customers, and mostly all 5 stars. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to serve the community and then have so many raving fans. So I thought that was very impressive. And Victoria's Secret, a few years into, when they saw Lululemon was gaining traction, Victoria's Secret made $100 million offer to buy out Chip Wilson, but he decided that he didn't want to take the offer. But he said, that told me that we're on the right path. And because if Victoria's Secret wants to buy us out, they see something in us, and that tells me that we're in the right place. And he was right, because right now the company is worth $40 billion. So he rejected $100 million offer, and the company today is right around 40 billion. So yes, a lot has gone right for them, and kudos to them.
It's their slogan is marketing a lifestyle rather than a product. So they are marketing a way of life, which is amazing. Even their three pillars that they live by, like that's the company's thing, is sweat, grow, and connect. Which you also see the employees doing. You see, even as a consumer, I see it happening. It's like I'm growing also with the company. So their company is amazing. Their business is honestly is an iconic business model. That's how I see it. And they don't only give back to their employees, they also give back to their clientele. So they make sure that we're also taken care of as well as they take care of their own.
Speaking of their employees, so I looked up, their kind of their ratings on Glassdoor and other recognition that they've received from third parties. But they're very highly rated on Glassdoor and these employee websites, right? They kind of rate their employers. So people really enjoy working there. Received awards, recognition throughout the years for how they take care of their employees and all that, right? So and it goes to kind of the closing tweet that Laura had on her tweet thread, right? She said, most people minimize their frontline workers. Lululemon maximized us, and that's what great companies do. They bring together great people, invest in them, and give them big goals and freedom to accomplish them. So I thought that was, really just what she got like. How many likes on this tweet now? This was back on May 1st, and now she's at this got like retweeted about 1.4 thousand times, 11,000 likes, 10,000 bookmarks, and it was viewed 3.6 million times on Twitter. So pretty, uh, you know, uh, well seen tweet and a lot of visibility for for just a tweet thread about Lululemon, right? Uh, so it's pretty impressive. I think people want to work at a place where they're valued, that invests in them as much as they invest into the work. Ijaz, I wanted to. I know that besides the background about Lululemon, you had also wanted to share with our listeners about their quarter one earnings report and your thoughts on their stock, since that kind of went by in the discussion. So can you share that with everyone?
Yes, absolutely. So, me being with my background, obviously, I've been 30 years. I've been working, managing my own money, but also work with the Wall Street firm. So I look at every company, especially publicly traded company. Will this make a good investment or not? So I kind of approach, besides all that stuff we discussed, I kind of approached Lululemon more from an investment standpoint. Does it make a good investment for somebody to buy the stock right now as a business, right? And again, my thoughts here, these are my thoughts. It's not investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor, nor am I giving any investment advice, but I just kind of took a deep dive into the company financials, if you will, especially because last week they announced their first quarter earnings and of 2024 first quarter earnings, and the company was and the market was very jittery because they don't know what to expect. Because here are some numbers, right? The stock hit a high of $516 end of 2023, and it's down about 40% right now to about 315. Now, when a stock falls about 40% for a high growth company, there obviously are concerns. Like, why is that happening? Why is the stock market discounting the stock that much? It's not that the products are discounted by 40%. To my knowledge, I don't even think they discount their products much, frankly speaking. But the stock price is down almost 40%. So it's like a stock is on sale. Well, the question is why, right? And then when I took a deep dive into why, here's what I found out. Well, the main thing is the sales are slowing in their biggest market, which is the United States. And they're concerned because they're losing market share to other brands that are also now targeting the same. Because no company can be successful forever. The moment they start doing something well, other competitors follow in, they're copycats, et cetera, et cetera. So there are three companies mostly that are really coming after them big time. One is Aloe, Vuori. I'm not even familiar with these brands, to be honest with you. And also Gap has a brand called Athleta that they also have out there. And the thing is, what they're doing is these companies put a store right by Lululemon because they know that's where the customers are. So if you want to go to Lululemon, you might also want to come check out their pricing. So they're literally opening stores right by Lululemon, so that way they can take away some of the market share. So that's what's happening. They also had their chief product officer recently leave the company, and this chief product officer was credited by a lot of the innovations at the company, and so the street looked at that in a very negative way. That if this person's leaving, that's problematic. Even though CEO on the quarterly call was like, "Oh, don't worry, we have enough people on the bench. That should not be an issue," but that is a concern. The stock price PE, price to earnings, they call it, which is a measure of how expensive the stock is. The higher the PE, the more expensive the stock is. It's a 31 is the PE, and for most companies, if it's a good company, 15 to 20 generally is what the PE should be. It's 31. That means the price is still high compared to the earnings it's generating. And this is where if you miss on any type of fashion trends, and there's execution risk. You miss, you really get punished in the stock market. So these are some of the concerns. But the pluses that I noticed about this company, number one, on the earnings call, the CEO was very upbeat, positive. Numbers were better. Sales growth came in about 2.21 billion. They were thinking the sales for the quarter might be about 2 billion-ish. So they came about 10% higher, which was a good thing. Earnings came in higher as well, 2.54 per share. And more importantly, the management team reaffirmed their guidance for the full year, saying, we are committed to giving revenue of about 10.7 to 10.8 billion. Earnings should be about 14.47 per share. Gross margins are still maintaining about 58%, and international expansion, especially in China, is going really, really well for them. And new product launches are coming. So even though stock is down 40%, there's a lot of good that could be coming. But again, missteps can happen. That's the concern. So I was looking at some of the analysts, how they're ranking the stock out of the analysts that cover 17 has them with a buy rating, 4 have a hold, 1 has a sell. That means that, okay, well, the more analysts are bullish. Price targets are anywhere from 240 to 550. Today, as we do this podcast, the stock is right around 315 per share. So depending on how you look at it, you either have downside to 240 per share or upside to 550. So, if somebody asked me today, hey, would you buy, hold, or sell? I mean, if you own the stock, I wouldn't sell it. I would just keep it. I would hold it at this level. So that's how I would look at it. If you're going to buy, I would probably say I would buy this stock. There's a lot of good things that that the company's talking about, and then with the share price being down 40%, for a growth company like this, I don't think it's a bad buy. So it's more of a speculative buy. Now, I don't buy these type of stocks. I'm not asking anyone to buy Lululemon necessarily. I'm just sharing some of the financials, some numbers, my thoughts on how this company is operating. So again, not advised, just sharing my thoughts. So net Omar, I think it's a great company. You talked about that. They invest in their people, they invest in the products, the service is amazing. If they can get a few things right, I think it could be a good investment. So that's kind of like my thoughts on the financials.
Thanks, Ajaz. And one thing I'll mention, just a personal anecdote. You mentioned China; they're expanding into Asia, but I really don't know why they haven't expanded more into India, Pakistan, places like that. So I just want to give you a real world example. So my wife ordered me last Eid some shalwar kameez for Eid, and usually I wear a large, kameez like the shirt. The pants, though, the large doesn't work for me. Junaid Jamshed, you guys got to figure this out. I don't know what's going on over there at JJ, but the large does not work. I need a medium. I didn't have a medium. Luckily, I had my ABC Lululemon uh, pants that I just threw on with it. Seamless. The Jaws, it was seamless. You couldn't tell the difference. It looked like it went with the outfit. These guys just need to start doing like some, ABC shalwar kameez over there in Pakistan, India. It's going to be like their next thing. They can thank me for this advice later, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's very important. If they want to, open up into Asia, that might be one of their inroads.
So, Omar, seamless might be in your humble opinion. I didn't see you, so I really can't comment whether it was seamless or not. However, I will tell you this: that the India, Pakistan, I think $100 pants might be a little bit too much. So when they look at scaling, I'm sure they've looked at India. I'm sure they've thought about expanding there. But I think their own market research probably tells them that somebody will be quite happy wearing a local Junaid Jamshed brand and doing yoga or whatever, pajamas or lungi or dhoti or whatever they want to wear, than putting $100 out for Lululemon pants, right? So I think I'm sure at some point in time they will get there. But the question becomes, will that move the dial for a company this big with $40 billion company? It's a few stores in India will not really move it, or Pakistan. I think they're looking at some major sales volumes, and I don't know if India and Pakistan is the right place for that. That's just my take on this based on my readings and some of the comments made by some of their management team members.
Okay, so sounds good. Appreciate that feedback and crushing my dreams, Ajaz. That's okay. Um, but any closing comments on Lululemon?
So, so they are actually 70% of their sales does come from the US, but at least they expanded to the Arab countries. That's all I know. Because I've seen them in Dubai and several other places, including Lebanon, surprisingly. But they are expanding, and that is one of their 5-year goals, because they set them up that within the 5 years that they're looking for international expansion when I was researching it. Other than that, I love Lululemon. I think their product, their strategy is amazing, and how they treat their employees, as well as their customers, is excellent customer service. Because I know other people that do work at other stores like Aloe and Vior and all that, and I can assure you guys it's not the same as
I would agree with that,
what.
Farah. I've tried them as well. Not on the same level. They're still pretty good, but not on the same level.
Yeah, I personally also love Aloe, but I know somebody that does work there, and they're not the happiest. um, which they're looking to switch over to Lululemon, which is kind of funny. But yeah,
Did
overall,
they make them?
great.
Did they make them sign a non-compete over there at Alo?
No, they don't sign non-competes.
Okay,
Can you imagine? They
right.
would have no employees at that point. But
Yeah. Ijaz, Jimmy Butler, he's a big Aloe guy. Ijaz, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Lululemon? 'Cause I know.
No, no, no. I think we've talked enough, but I did want to get your thoughts on the NBA after that. So I don't know if you have any comments, but otherwise, let's just wrap this baby up for today. I think we covered a lot of information and a lot of stuff for people to think about.
Yeah, so last night was game two of the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics took a 2-0 lead. I know Ijaz and I are big basketball fans, but I don't know if do you watch the NBA much?
I rather play than watch.
Rather play than
When
watch.
it
Good
comes
for
to
you.
sports, I'm out.
Fair
I'd
enough.
rather play it.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the NBA Finals are going on. It's June 10th today. So, game two was last night. Boston won again. So 2-0. They're heading to Dallas. I live in Dallas. I'm not a Mavericks fan. I don't really care one way or the other who wins. I do hate the Celtics personally. So, no offense to our Boston Celtics fans out there who are listening. I'm a Heat fan myself. I grew up in Florida. So, I'm a big Heat fan. So, a lot of dislike for Boston. Not very happy that they're up 2-0, but they got a heck of a team, man. I can't really say much. They're just they can shoot lights out. They play good defense, so they win. They win. Just
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
rather not stick around to watch them celebrate, though.
yeah, no, I know. I think my take is I don't think the series is over yet. I could be completely wrong. I think Dallas might win. I mean, Boston won two in their home court. I think now Dallas gets to do that too, and then it might go to a best of three after that if they win straight too. But we'll see. But it's a fun series. I think it's not over yet. And yeah, I have no dog in the fight. I'm from Chicago, so I'm just watching it, casual observer. I would love to see the best team. Both teams, in my mind, deserve to win if they win. So I like players on both sides. But yeah, no, that's good. Excited, and yeah, that's it, Omar.
We
Hopefully,
got
let's
we got two Muslim basketball players in the finals, right? We got
yeah,
Kyrie Irving, and then we got Jalen Brown. So that's also interesting
yeah,
from a Muslim perspective, right? A lot of our listeners, obviously, from the Muslim community, so that's something that's going on there. So it's cool to see a couple of Muslim ballers out there playing in the NBA finals. But yeah, it's been, I think, a really interesting episode. Hopefully, all of you who have been listening benefited, inshallah, in some way about Lululemon and National Association of Realtors. So we'll be wrapping up this episode here. Ijaz, Farah, any final comments before we close out today?
No, we're good.
Nope, we're good.
Sounds good. Well, this is Omar Subhani. It's signing off with our UIF Community Podcast, our third episode in the books. Want to thank you all for listening. Jazakallah khair. Again, if you have the opportunity, please check out our website, myuif.com, Islamic financing services, home financing, commercial, auto. So we're trying to do it all. We're trying to benefit the community in as many ways as we can. This podcast is one of those ways that we're trying to provide value to the community. We hope that it's beneficial, inshallah. If you got a long drive somewhere, or you're sitting on a bus or subway, and you got to listen to something. We hope that we're entertaining you, educating you with these different topics, inshallah. And like us, follow us, share to your friends and family. Appreciate it so much. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.